I've been sitting down to record this word for over an hour, and I promise you, every technical difficulty possible has happened. So I know it's important. Lord said there have been so many people in this world who abandoned you prematurely because they didn't think that you knew me the way that you know me. He led me to the story of Joseph. At first, I was a little bit confused, but the more I read, the more I understand. Before I say any of this, I want you to remember that you are Joseph and the Father is God. Joseph found favor in his father's eyes. You found favor in God's eyes. Because of this, his father gave him a coat. I want you to think about the gifts that God bestows upon us. Joseph wears his coat in front of his brothers, and his brothers immediately grow envious. Let's be so clear, jealousy can be easily disguised. Because of this jealousy, they ended up selling him into slavery. There have been so many people who abandoned you prematurely because they didn't think you knew me the way that you know me. Joseph's brothers just thought that he was a butt kisser. Let's be so clear. They didn't think that he was worthy of receiving the things that his father was giving him. That's why they sold him into slavery. There are so many people who deem themselves righteous and judge you on that authority, but do not truly know God. One of the things that I struggled with heavily when I was first developing my relationship with Christ was this idea that I was crazy, because so many people in this world want to shove their truth down your throat. They'll do everything in their power to make you feel uncomfortable expressing your truth. How many of you have been cast out solely because of the gifts that God bestowed upon you? Probably all of you. When Joseph was enslaved, he didn't just give up, and this is extremely important. The Lord was strengthening him in every season of his life because he was putting his faith in him. When Joseph was a slave, he was bought by this man. This man ended up putting him in charge of his household. He was basically like overseeing everything. This is foreshadowing something extremely important. Unfortunately, while Joseph was in this position, his master's wife tried leading him into temptation. He kept rejecting her because the Lord had given him spiritual authority. Of course, this woman's upset that he rejected her, so she ends up falsely accusing him of something that she wanted him to do that he wouldn't do because he knew God. Does this sound familiar? This has happened to me so many times. Obviously not exactly in this manner. I've had people accuse me countless times of things that I know that God knows I would never do. Joseph ends up going to prison because of this. And the Lord really wants me to help you understand that the imprisonment that we're talking about is applicable to you and your experience is a mental prison. And when Joseph was imprisoned, he was imprisoned with two other men. These two men ended up having dreams, and Joseph interpreted them. One of these men was a cupbearer for the Pharaoh. I'm going to start calling him a servant because cupbearer is a lot. Joseph tells this servant the position that he was in previously was going to be restored. He's like, when this happens, please put in a good word for me. It ends up happening, and the servant forgot about Joseph. Not for 1 year, but for 2 years. Just remember that God's timing is perfect. And while Joseph was in prison because of false accusation, he continued to keep the faith. 2-year mark hit, and the Pharaoh has a dream. He had this dream. He was looking to psychics and magicians to interpret it. None of them could. Finally, the servant remembers Joseph. He's like, I know a guy. I actually remember. I was in prison with this dude. He told me my position was going to be restored, and here I am. He told the other dude that he was going to pass away, and Pharaoh hears this, and he's like, get this dude in here. Joseph is taken out of prison. Pharaoh's like, I heard you can interpret dreams. And you know what Joseph says? This is so powerful. Joseph says, it is not I who can interpret dreams, but God. He spoke with a different kind of authority because all of the glory went back to the Lord. This authority helped the Pharaoh receive the interpretation clearly. Remember that authority was spiritual. He received it clearly. Joseph was established in physical authority as well. The Pharaoh took his signet ring and put it on Joseph's finger, establishing his power over Egypt. Listen to this. Not only did Joseph receive fortune, but he received forgiveness. And not forgiveness from anybody else, but forgiveness for everybody else. The same brothers that sold Joseph into slavery came to Egypt in the middle of a famine, looking for resources. When they did, they stumbled upon Joseph. But guess what? Joseph was unrecognizable. Joseph knew that he was talking to his brothers, but his brothers did not know that they were talking to Joseph. This is important because Joseph's brothers thought that they knew him, right? They had this idea in their mind about him. It caused them to act on deception. When Joseph's spiritual authority became physical authority, they couldn't recognize him. Remember, this physical authority is a reflection of his spiritual authority. So if they couldn't recognize him in physical, they couldn't recognize him in spirit either. When Joseph had found favor in his father's eyes, you found favor in your father's eyes. They thought that it wasn't fair, that it wasn't true, that it wasn't just. And so not only did they lean on their own understanding, but they acted on it. When Joseph realized that his brothers couldn't recognize him, he tested them. He snuck a little something in their wagon. He sent one of his stewards after them. It looked like they had stole something, not out of spite, but because he wanted them to come back. When they came back, he wanted to see if they would repeat the same behavior twice. Would they allow their father's new favorite son to perish solely because they were selfish? While they're trying to bargain with him, he finally breaks. I want you to listen to this. He says, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt, and now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. Fast forward a little bit, it says, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen. And Goshen is the land of plenty. The reason why the Lord needs me to say this, because there were 3 pivotal seasons in Joseph's life. Right? He experienced protection in the form of rejection. He experienced refinement in prison. He experienced redemption when he was put in a position of physical authority. Not because the world placed him there, but because God placed him there. You need to understand that God's plan will always prosper, no matter what people do or say. I've fallen into deception so many times. There were so many points and periods in my life where I was like, I'm not going to get past this. I was right. I wouldn't have gotten past it by myself. But guess what? I have the Lord. You have the Lord. He will continue to strengthen you and refine you in these pivotal seasons of your life. But you need to remember that they are seasons. This is not an eternal experience we're having on this earth. But when you allow that eternal experience to exist in spirit, the Lord will reciprocate in the physical. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Joseph's brothers experienced 2 years of the famine before they had met Joseph in his position of authority. God is so intentional. There is no doubt in my mind. There was purpose in those 2 years for them. There was purpose in those 2 years for Joseph. There is purpose in whatever season you are experiencing right now. I love you. Jesus loves you. Don't forget it. I won't let you.